It has now been more than 3 days since 4 University of Idaho students were found murdered.
We begin with that breaking news in this grisly murder case. A 28-year-old man, Bryan Kohberger, is now under arrest in connection with the killing.
Our tragic story begins in the early hours of November 13th, 2022, in the small, normally peaceful college town of Moscow, Idaho. What transpired that morning would shock the community of 25,000 to its core and make national headlines. It was around 4 a.m. when a brutal attack claimed the lives of 4 young University of Idaho students who were living together in an off-campus rental house. The victims were tragically stabbed to death as they slept. 21-year-olds Madison Mogen and Kaylee Goncalves, 20-year-old Xana Kernodle, and her boyfriend, 20-year-old Ethan Chapin. 2 female roommates survived, untouched by the violence that took place in their own home. News of the horrific murders quickly sent waves of grief and panic across Moscow. By all accounts, it was an unprovoked crime that no one saw coming, especially given no murders had been officially recorded in the college town since 2015. In the hours leading up to their deaths, the victims had been enjoying a normal Saturday night. Earlier at around 8 p.m., Chapin and Kernodle attended a party at the Sigma Chi fraternity house on campus. They returned home at 1:45 a.m. Meanwhile, best friends Mogen and Goncalves went downtown to a sports bar called the Corner Club at 10 p.m. before leaving at 1:30 a.m. At 1:41 a.m., Mogen and Goncalves were seen smiling and laughing on a live stream video from a nearby food truck, the Grub Truck. They got their food 10 minutes later and initially took what was thought to be an Uber ride home. Police later corrected this, indicating a private party had driven the 2 girls back to the rented house by 1:56 a.m. The victims were all back inside the residence by this time. Then between 2:26 and 2:52 a.m., there were 10 unanswered calls between Goncalves, Mogen, and Goncalves' ex-boyfriend, also a University of Idaho student. Though investigated, police cleared him as a suspect. Around 4 a.m., just moments before her death, Kernodle received a food delivery she had ordered from DoorDash. The 2 surviving female roommates had come home to the house at 1 a.m. They were unharmed in the attack, though initial reports wrongly stated they were both asleep on the ground floor when it happened, and didn't wake. Investigators later revealed that one roommate was actually sleeping upstairs, where the stabbings took place. She told police she woke to noises that sounded like Goncalves and her dog. Alarmed, the roommate then heard either Goncalves or Kernodle saying something to the effect that, "There's someone here." She opened her door twice in quick succession. The second time, she heard cries coming from Kernodle's room, followed by an unknown male voice trying to reassure her by saying, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." Just before 4:17 a.m., nearby security cameras captured audio of whimpering, a loud thud, and a dog barking repeatedly. At this, the surviving roommate opened her door a 3rd time. She saw a man in all black clothing with a mask covering his mouth and nose walking toward her. She did not recognize him at all. He moved past her swiftly and exited through the sliding glass door. It remains unclear if he realized she had seen him or not in the chaos. Frozen in terror and shock, she quickly locked herself into her room. Tragically, the 4 victims were found stabbed to death in their beds on the 2nd and 3rd floors of the home. Mogen and Goncalves were killed in Mogen's 3rd floor bedroom. Just down the hall, Kernodle and Chapin met the same horrific fate in Kernodle's room on the 2nd floor. There were signs of violent struggle, blood-spattered walls and defensive wounds indicating brave attempts to fight off the surprise attacker in their final moments. Remarkably, though, it would take nearly 8 more hours before anyone reported the crime. At 11:58 a.m., one of the surviving roommates finally called 911 from her cell phone, initially reporting an unconscious person needing assistance. Responding officers arrived to find the front door unlocked with no forced entry. Nothing inside seemed disturbed, and the attack did not appear to be an attempted robbery. The 2 surviving roommates were still reeling in shock when help came, unable to comprehend the loss of their friends. Some other friends they had called over were also there, trying to support them. All 4 deaths were officially declared homicides from multiple stab wounds by the coroner at noon that Sunday. Detectives determined the brutal attacks likely happened between 4 and 4:25 a.m. while the victims were sleeping. Horrifyingly, the murder weapon, believed to be a fixed blade knife, has yet to be found. In a November 23rd news conference, Moscow police mentioned receiving tips about victim Kaylee Goncalves potentially having a stalker, but could not confirm those reports at the time. After reviewing hundreds of tips from the public, investigators announced on December 15th they were focused on around white Hyundai Elantras made between 2011 and 2013. Police traced this Elantra to 28-year-old Bryan Kohberger, a Washington State PhD student. Kohberger was pulled over twice in Indiana for traffic violations while driving the car to Pennsylvania after the killings. Further digging uncovered that Kohberger had been near the Moscow area around the time of the murders. Analysis of his phone records indicated it had stopped connecting to the cell network at 2:47 a.m. on November 13th near Pullman, Washington, just 8 miles from the University of Idaho campus and victim's rental home. Additionally, Kohberger's phone had connected to the cell tower closest to the victim's residence at least a dozen times between June 2022 and the early hours of November 13th when the brutal killings were committed. A tan leather knife sheath with DNA that wasn't from any of the victims or roommates was found on Madison Mogen's bed. This DNA matched back to Kohberger as well. The investigation's focus zeroed in on the PhD student. Surveillance outside Bryan Kohberger's parents' Pennsylvania home showed him repeatedly placing trash bags from the neighborhood dumpsters into his neighbor's bins while wearing surgical gloves. The neighbor's trash was sent for testing, as investigators noted Kohberger had thoroughly cleaned his own car inside and out since returning from Idaho. Finally, on December 30th, authorities apprehended Kohberger at his family's home thanks to an FBI SWAT team. Notably, he was still compulsively wearing examination gloves while sorting new trash bags when the arrest team found him. A search uncovered a knife, pistol, black face mask, and multiple ID cards in his possession. On 4 counts of first-degree murder and a burglary charge, Kohberger was held without bail as he awaited extradition to Idaho. He waived contest to being returned to face charges in Latah County, arriving at the Moscow jail on January 4th, 2023, where prosecutors announced their intent to seek the death penalty. While Kohberger initially stood mute, refusing to enter any plea, the judge made a not guilty plea on his behalf as the case progressed. After indictment by a Latah County grand jury and cancellation of his June 2023 preliminary hearing, Kohberger remained jailed without bond, pleading his innocence. As of January 2024, he continues battling the extensive evidence implicating him as the attacker who so viciously stabbed 4 innocent students to death that fateful November morning. The manhunt may have ended with his arrest, but the complex trail to justice is still unfolding. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to Crime Chronicles for more exclusive true crime videos.